Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Absent. Mr. President.
Here. Please stand for the pledge and remarks by Councilmember Melton.
All right, thank you. Please, everybody have a seat. Brinker, Harding, and I are switching weeks, giving the invocation this week. But I just want to say, as everybody knows, today is Election Day. The polls are open until 8 p.m. If you haven't voted, you can still vote. If you need to know where your polling place is, you can Google Douglas County Election Commission. You can punch in your address. It'll give you your polling place. And I want to say that it's the one day that, as Americans, it's our duty to vote. And if you don't vote, I just want to say, I don't want to hear any complaints in the future. But this is the one time when you get to make decisions. We sit up here and vote on things every week. Today is your day to cast your vote. So please go out there. If you want any more information, you can also go to voterinformation.org. And when you are there, please thank the poll workers. You know, they show up. And in fact, Heather Tippy Pierce was at my polling place this morning, dedicating her entire day. They show up before the sun rises, and they're going to be there cleaning up well after the polls close. And it's the same workers. They do it from morning all the way to night. So give them a quick thank you before you leave. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
An affidavit of publication is on file for the pre-council and city council meeting, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of the legislative chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Omaha City Council. We appreciate having you here today, and we look forward to hearing your testimony on our many items. I encourage you to turn your cell phones off or at least to vibrate.
Item 6, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for the villas at Pine Creek Woods located southwest of 156th and Potter Streets. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 6 is today. Proponents, please.
I'm Kyle Hazy with E&A Consulting Group, 10909 Mill Valley Road, representing the applicant. I make myself available for any questions that the council may have today.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Seeing none, public hearings closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding is absent. Johnson is absent. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 6 is approved, 5-0.
Thanks.
Item 7, a resolution to approve the preliminary plat for Omaha Works Industrial Park Replat 16, located northwest of 120th and I Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 7 is today. Proponents, please.
Dan Dozal, Earhart Griffin Associates, 3552 Farnham Street. We are the project engineers. It's pretty simple, so I'll just answer questions if you may.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearings closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Item
Thank
7
you.
is approved, 6-0. Items 8 through 15 can be considered together for Kennedy Square East, located northeast of 30th Street and Spencer Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Items 8 through 10, ordinances to rezone this property from R5 District, R7 District, and CC District to R5 District, R7 District, and CC District. Item 11, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the ACI Overlay District to incorporate this property into that district. Items 12 and 13, ordinances to approve PUR overlay districts for mixed-use building and residential uses. Item 14, a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 15, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing and vote on items 8 through 15 is today. Proponents, please.
I'm Terry Morrison with Earhart Griffin Associates, 3552 Farnham Street. I'm here on behalf of the owner. I can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Hi, Bill Lukash, Bryn Shore Development, 903 South 184th Avenue Circle. Here to answer questions if I can. Thank you.
Brian Hansen here for the owner, 1823 Harney Street, Omaha, Nebraska, here for the Omaha Housing Authority.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe.
Yes.
Bagley.
Aye.
Harding is absent. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 8 through 15 are approved, 6-0. Item 16, an ordinance to approve an amendment to the future land use element of the city's master plan to change the future land use map for the property generally located at 216th and Harrison Streets to identify this intersection as a convenience mixed-use center. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing and vote on number 16 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 16 is approved, 6-0. Item 17, to consider a Class D liquor license for Casey's 6170, located at 3529 South 72nd Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 17 is today. Proponents, please. Oh, I think we have the proponent by Zoom. 1 minute here.
This
All right.
is Joe Thompson representing Casey's 4822 South 143rd. Here for any questions.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 17 is approved, 6-0. Item 18, to consider a Class K liquor license for a liquor store located at 5402 North 90th Street, Suite 5450.
Public hearing and vote on number 18 is today. Proponents, please. I believe we have Mr. Kelly by Zoom as well. All right, try that.
Mr. President, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mike Kelly, 2804 South 87th Avenue, appearing on behalf of the applicant. This is simply an upgrade to a K license so they can do catering, and we're here for any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Are you an opponent on number 18, Donnie?
Is this, the question I have, is this Kelly Bowl in Florence?
No.
Oh, okay, because I know that Kelly Bowl is okay. I'm not sure about this.
Okay. Any other opponents on number 18? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. I'll second. Roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 18 is approved, 6-0.
Thank you.
Item 19, a resolution to request the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission to require 415, located at 415 South 13th Street, to submit a formal application.
Public hearing and vote on number 19 is today. Proponents, please.
Ryan Wiesen, Assistant City Attorney. Good afternoon. We're here today at the request of the Law Committee to determine whether or not there is sufficient information contained within the police reports that have been submitted as part of the legislative record for you today to require KBOB Incorporated, doing business as 415, to submit a formal long-form application for the renewal of their liquor license to the Liquor Control Commission. Your vote today is not whether KBOB remains qualified to hold a liquor license. Your vote today and the decision before the council today is only to determine whether or not there is enough information or evidence in the record before you to require KBOB to go through the formal long-form application process. I'll begin by summarizing generally the information contained within the police tavern reports that have been submitted as part of the record. They begin with a report from February 28th, 2021, in which Omaha Police and fire and rescue responders were dispatched to Bar 415 for a down party. Responding officers arrived and found a woman lying on the floor unresponsive in a restroom. The victim was not alert, was not responsive, had shallow breathing, and a pulse that appeared to be faint. She was taken to the University of Nebraska Medical Center for treatment. What's been marked as Exhibit 2 for the council's consideration is a tavern report dated March 3rd, 2021. This report details a disturbance that started inside the bar and continued to the outside of the neighborhood, and it actually consists of two separate disturbances with related parties. The disturbance again started inside the bar. The parties were ejected from the establishment and continued their argument outside. Eventually, officers found two down parties near the intersection of South 13th Street and Harney. Both parties appear to have been assaulted. One party appeared to have been robbed, and the officers observed facial injuries and blood near both down parties. The remaining 9 tavern reports that we'll discuss today all occurred in 2022, this year. The first is marked as Exhibit 3, and it occurred on March 13th, 2022. This report details another disturbance where an individual was punched in the face inside the bar. Officers observed a visible injury, red marks and swelling to his face and around his left eye. The individual wanted to make a report so that the incident could be documented so that others would know about the violence at the place. Marked as Exhibit 4 for the council's consideration is a tavern report dated April 11th, 2022. This tavern report details 2 separate disturbances, one of which was started inside the establishment and continued outside, and another which occurred right outside the entrance to 415. Again, just general disturbances and fights that have spilled out from the bar into the surrounding neighborhood. Marked as Exhibit 5 for the council's consideration is a tavern report dated April 22nd, 2022. Again, officers observed a physical altercation between 2 patrons of 415 outside of the bar. Marked as Exhibit 6 is a tavern report dated June 3rd, 2022. In this instance, the disturbance again occurred inside the bar and spilled into the surrounding neighborhood. Ultimately, it resulted in an individual throwing a bottle or some sort of property at a vehicle. The individual missed that vehicle, and it ended up breaking a window at another establishment in the Old Market. The individual who started the disturbance inside the bar did admit to officers of punching 2 individuals in the side of the head inside the bar. Marked as Exhibit 7 for the council's consideration is an exhibit dated June 11th, 2022. In this tavern report, officers report that they were near the intersection of 13th and Howard Street when they observed a fight begin at the 415 bar. While officers were responding to try and break up that disturbance outside, several individuals attempted to run past the security at the establishment and enter the bar. Again, this shows a lack of management and control at the bar sufficient to control disturbances and to follow the rules and regulations of the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission and the Nebraska liquor statutes. Marked as Exhibit 8 for the council's consideration is a tavern report dated June 19th, 2022. 2 officers were on patrol in the Old Market when they detected an odor of marijuana being smoked outside of 415. They made contact with the offending individual. The report doesn't indicate that they determined that he was not a patron of the establishment, but he was outside of the property, and liquor individuals who maintain liquor licenses do have a duty to ensure that illegal activity, including drug use, does not occur either in their establishment or adjacent outdoor areas such as this while the liquor license is in operation. Marked as Exhibit 9 is a tavern report dated July 24th, 2022. This report details a disturbance that in and of itself would be relatively minor. It appears to be a domestic disturbance that is fairly unrelated to the liquor license establishment. However, the concerning aspect of this report is that the victim states that security at 415 told him not to make a report to the police about the incident and the disturbance that occurred. What's been marked as Exhibit 10 for the council's consideration is a tavern report dated September 2nd, 2022. This report details two officers who were patrolling near 12th and Howard Street when they observed an individual walking in the old market with an open container of alcohol, high noon vodka and soda in her hand. The individual was found to be under the age of 21, stated that she knew one of the bouncers at 415 and went into 415, obtained alcohol from the establishment and consumed it at the bar as an underage individual, and then was allowed to leave the bar with an open container of alcohol in hand, at which point she encountered law enforcement officers in the open market. And finally, what's been marked as Exhibit 11 is a tavern report dated September 18th, 2022. This report details just another disturbance fight that occurred within the bar at 415. Again, as with most of the reports that detail disturbances, they demonstrate a pattern and a lack of management and control at the establishment sufficient to control the patrons, prevent those disturbances from spilling into the surrounding neighborhood of the old market, and otherwise just generally conform to the rules and regulations of the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission. Again, your task today is not to determine whether or not KBOB remains qualified to hold a liquor license. It is only to determine whether or not there's enough information presented in these reports or from other members of the public at this public hearing to require KBOB to go through the formal long-form renewal process to renew their license in the future. I'll be available for any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today?
Good afternoon, Holly Barrett with the Downtown Improvement District, 1620 Dodge Street, Suite 140. 415 has been in our neighborhood for a long, long time, so we do not want them to go. But they have been on the radar for our private security team, and every month at our security meetings, we hear conversation from the police. And I think there has been a definite uptick in the tavern reports in the last 12 months. So again, I'm happy to hear that they are not under that they're not going to be losing their liquor license right now. We have found that when we ask some of our bars who are less than good neighbors, and that's what we're really talking about, is the behavior that's happening starting in a bar, but then it's happening outside in the neighborhood afterwards. We have found that most of the bars that have to go through that whole big, long process, that they really do start to pay attention to best practices. They hire better off-duty officers. They really talk to their bouncers, and then they police outside of their patios. They go out into the community as well, just a good 15 feet or so. So we would highly recommend that they go through the process and get back to being really good neighbors, because they've been with us for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Good afternoon, I'm Deb Cunningham and I represent the 415. Present today is Regina Davis, who's been taking care of the security at 415, particularly in the evening and outside, since we had the meeting with the liquor committee. It was obvious they wanted things addressed. They took immediate steps to do so, and I'm going to describe what those are.
Okay.
The owners are also here in case anyone has a question for them.
Okay, and just your address for the record, too?
Pardon me?
Your address for the record, too?
900 South 75th Street, Omaha, Nebraska.
Thank you.
I'd like to spend maybe 5 minutes, because I don't like to belabor bad news. But let's start with that incident report in 2021. The young woman involved never had a drink at 415. She came in, she went directly towards the bathroom with her friends. She collapsed there. If 415 hadn't called the ambulance immediately, we don't know what would have happened with that young woman. But this was one of those things where so often young people are moving from one place to the next. They didn't know what was wrong with her. They called the ambulance first. I think that was the responsible thing to do, although it did result in an incident report. There's no question about that. With regard to some of the other incident reports, the one, for example, one gentleman, it's exhibit number 3, he just says somebody maybe punched him in the bar because he shoved somebody else over a receipt. There's very little, I think, actually a bar can do about such a quick incident, but basically this report is simply reflecting what someone told police. There was no charges on that. The next set was 4, exhibit 4. This fight starts because they don't let somebody in. This is what they're supposed to do. And so he gets disorderly outside. Now, I took the time going through all of the criminal citations that might have done, because some of them resulted in citations by the Omaha police. They're all fines. Not one of these incidents was considered so, I'm not going to say it's not serious, but let's say egregious in some ways, to result in more than a fine. The exhibit 5, this is one in which the people left and they couldn't even get a statement from the people there. They were ejected. They were a little disorderly outside. And remember, when we're talking about the 415, we are talking about a bar that has the police sitting very close. They can see everything. If they see something disorderly, they're likely just to come over, whether the 415 calls them or not. That's not a problem. It's a good thing. But they're situated where they can basically see all the activity in that area of the market. Also on the other side, well, actually most of the time, both sides of this bar are food trucks. So it brings a lot of people down close to closing after they've left another place. Maybe they try and get into the 415, maybe they don't. But there's a lot of room there where people are just, for lack of a better word, accumulating. Exhibit 8 bothers me because this gentleman apparently is smoking pot out in front of the 415 on a bench after closing. If 415 might have known he was there, they would have, I'm sure, shown him the door. But because it was the time it was, they weren't even aware that he was there. He said he wasn't a patron of the bar. I am quite sure of concern is the incident that's exhibit 10. That is the apparent underage person who says they get into 415. We don't know if she was in 415 for sure or not. We couldn't identify it, but no one's denying that it's possible. I mean, we're not saying that it's impossible. She gets caught with a can of High Noon by the police, and she said she had basically snuck into 415. It's possible. What we're talking about here, though, is take a look at the history of the 415. We don't have them with underage drinking. We don't have a bunch of violations. It can happen to any bar, and I suggest that she kind of took maybe a little bit of advantage of what was going on at the door. 9-2 is important. I don't know what that means, but 9-2 is important because it's approximately 1 week after we hired new security. We were just in the process of melding that difference between security inside, security outside, how it's going to work. They hired Clydesdale Horseman, and in particular, Regina Davis. Now, I've known Regina Davis for quite some time because she was security and a guard at Douglas County Corrections for 30 years. She's a sergeant, and she has instituted a wide range of changes to handle that front. There's a line all the time because the IDs are gone through. One reason we were a little concerned about 9-2 is possibly she had a bad ID, but we don't know. Pat downs all the time. Nobody's allowed in after 1:40. And the reason for that isn't because they can't still serve them liquor. It's because you have to sort of clear out or try and clear out as much at the front so that you can start closing the inside of the bar. The inside of the bar stops serving at a certain time, the lights come up, and then everybody's sort of prepared to move people out. No system's perfect, but this is pretty good. This is one where, first of all, many of the people who go to the bars down there know Ms. Davis. They have known her from Douglas County. They've known her from her community. She doesn't lie to them. She doesn't fight with them. She simply tells them what is expected at that door. There is radio communication between her and people who are, for example, at Eat the Worm. They will tell her if they see an issue that could cause her a problem, or if she's seeing something, she can try and communicate with them. While I mention that bar, I don't know the bar, I don't have a problem with the bar at all. I will tell you that the one incident report that's in here about the person throwing a bottle, if you take a look at what got filed on that by the city, all of that took place at Eat the Worm. And then they started moving away. The window broken was Eat the Worm, and if you look at the complaints filed by the city prosecutor's office, the locality and complainant is Eat the Worm. And that's where those people were. I have no reason to think Eat the Worm was doing anything wrong. This appeared to be a fight over a parking issue out front. And so somebody got upset, threw a bottle. I don't know what Eat the Worm could have done about it either. But that was not 415 specifically. I have you know, 415 hires a lot of people, and these people have been in business there for 20 years. And I'm not going to stand here and say, well, they should have done this earlier, they should have done it. The fact is they've done it. They're trying to do it. They're trying to fix it. And I think it's really important to understand, first of all, the cost that's involved, what they've done. Do they begrudge that? No. It's necessary. If they're going to stay open, they've got to have security. But I think the steps they've taken to address separate areas is extremely important, because no longer do people have to sort of move from inside to outside to see what might be going on that street. Because Ms. Davis, and she always has at least one other person out front with her. And it's, like I said, it's very important. Ms. Davis is here to answer any questions about security that anyone might have.
Either just name and address for the record if you want to speak.
Regina Davis, 2905 North 125th Avenue.
Okay. Anything you want to add, or are you just here to answer questions?
I can answer questions. I have nothing to add except for the fact that I do have experience, not just in my being a guard at Douglas County, but I also owned a bar in Omaha, Nebraska. So the things that I put in place were the things that I used in my operations as an owner of a bar here in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if there's questions here in a minute. Any other opponents that want to speak today? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. There's a motion and a second to approve. No further questions? Roll call.
Melton.
Yes.
Palermo.
Yes.
Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 6-0. Consent agenda. Any member of the city council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the city council immediately following the consent agenda and in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the city council rules of order.
The public hearing on agenda items 20 through 24 was held on November 1st. Is there a motion? I'll second. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 20 through 24 are approved, 6-0.
Public hearings on agenda items 25 through 30 are today. If you wish to address the city council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by name, address, and who you represent, and if you are a proponent or an opponent. Seeing none, public hearings are closed. I'll second. Roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Items 25 through 30 are approved, 6-0. Item 31, a resolution to approve the contract with Erickson Construction in the amount of $608,050 for the Stores Expressway Pumping Station Fuel Tank Improvements, 3rd and Hartman Avenue project.
Public hearing and vote on number 31 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. I'll second. Roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 31 is approved, 6-0. Item 32, a resolution to approve the bid in the total amount of $124,800 from Dostal's Construction Company for the removal of existing poured surface and installation of new poured surface at Clarkson Park located at 124 North 42nd Street.
Public hearing and vote on number 32 is today. Proponents, please. Mr. Kelsevich.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. City of Omaha Parks and Recreation Director Matt Kelsevich, 1819 Parham Street. We're excited to bring this to you. This is the first of the ARPA-related funded projects for public improvements through Park and Recreation that we're presenting to you. All of the 9 parks-related projects and 3 partner projects are in motion in some form or fashion, but this happened to be the first one to hit the threshold of coming in front of the council. Again, the $10 million allocation for these improvements is something we think are going to make a tremendous impact across the census tract, of which the ARPA money or ARPA funding will be focused. And this project in particular, Clarkson Park, great fit as far as the criteria and the census tract. And pleased to be bringing you more of these as the projects hit, again, that threshold and time frame to come in front of council for those other projects. But one had to be first, and this is it. So happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. President, Director Kesevich, I just wanted to get clarification on these ARPA funds and criteria that you mentioned. Can you be a little bit more specific about how you arrived at picking this particular project out? 1. 2, was there any public input in that area regarding the recommendation that is being put before us today? Those kinds of things I think the community needs to know. In addition to that, how will this be impactful to the census tract community as we better serve the community relating to ARPA funds and the intent that these funds are to be used to assist with people that were mostly impacted by COVID?
Matt Kalsovich, City of Omaha Parks and Recreation Director. We're very excited for the fact that I'll start with the impact. These are addressing very specific issues with these public spaces that will make them safer, more inviting, the opportunity for more people to be involved in their use. As far as public feedback is concerned, I go back to the original outreach about the ARPA funding that the city received and the overwhelming commentary and result for improvement of public spaces. And so as far as this $10 million allocation was concerned, we looked very specifically at the parks located in the census tract. We did receive commentary on this project in particular about the playground surface, and upon review and assessment, it warranted an improvement and upgrade. And so again, being in the census tract, being part of the criteria to bring more people to a public space and have it be a safer, better environment for that kind of community gathering and participation. This was one of the early projects that we said was definitely something that met the criteria. So as far as all the projects are concerned, they very much followed a similar pattern. Certainly we took, again, the feedback of the community and their interest in seeing public spaces be improved very seriously, and tried to do what we could to make the most significant impact at the places we identified. This park in particular is in a spot that's used by quite a few residents in that area. We know that it's a place, because of just kind of its unique position in the community, people will stop and engage at, even if they aren't necessarily residents. So again, something we thought really hit the mark as far as not only being in the criteria, but maybe extra special fit as far as what we knew the interaction would be with the community, not only there, but as a whole.
So would you say that the public was definitely, their voices were heard regarding what they wanted to happen in their community?
In this project in particular, absolutely. This was the neighborhood offering us direct feedback from their leadership in the neighborhood association, as well as the people they represented immediately around the park. And then again, the bigger layer of the community feedback about public space improvement, and a place like this that's serving quite a big population of people right in that area. It was an ideal fit and something we felt very good about based on that feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bakley, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Matt.
Hello.
I know in the discussion I've had meetings with the folks in Jocelyn Neighborhood Association, and when I would visit my dad's house when my kids were little, this park has changed over the years and it's gotten pretty run down, as I know many parks have, but I'll absolutely look forward to supporting this. And it takes time for that ARPA money to get out, but as you said, the $10 million that were earmarked for public parks, this being the first one, not that it's any criteria that, there's parks everywhere, and I know there's other ones on the list. Is there 10? How many parks are impacted?
So 9 parks and 3 public space partnerships. And so again, very much like our traditional capital improvement program, projects move at different speed. There's different assessment or layers of review. This one was pretty clear cut as far as the scope of work and then what we were able to accomplish in terms of working with a contractor and setting this timeline.
Okay, and I know in talking to, in fact, I got an email a couple weeks ago on it. The time frame, if I remember reading the contract right, is it 180 days they have to complete the work?
Yeah, and some of that's weather contingent. We tried to move even a little faster to beat some of what's coming here as far as temperature regulations on installing this type of surface. So if we needed to have flexibility to help them meet the goal of the completion of the project, we would do that. But we think we can accomplish in that time frame to be ready for really the peak use time going into 23.
And I know that'll be appreciated as we get forward with this one today and the other several that you mentioned, a couple in my district, but the rest, I'm happy to support these throughout the city. I know.
Thank you.
I won't speak for you, but I'm guessing you wish you had another zero on that $10 million that we're putting out for the parks.
Yeah.
But this is definitely a good start, and I appreciate the outreach you did to the Jocelyn folks. When I got asked questions, you were right there quickly to answer. And I think that the outreach that the Parks Department has done, the surveys in Dolman, even other areas in my district, I do appreciate the work that you do on this. And I know the folks in Jocelyn that will be taking their kids on strollers at park will be just thrilled at the upgrade that's going to be done here by the spring. So I'll look forward to supporting this today, and thanks again for all your work on this.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, and I agree. This is a pretty clear-cut example of what we're trying to accomplish here. We just took a visit about an hour ago to the park, and I think this will be a nice enhancement. And the $10 million we're talking about for the rest of the projects too are something I'll support as well. In fact, I'd probably support more than $10 million if we could do that through our ARPA funding, and if there is additional ARPA funds still available that go uncommitted. Because I think public spaces and green spaces throughout the city are so important to our quality of life, and certainly important to neighborhoods like this one is. There'll be some more coming. I appreciate you kind of giving the rest of the picture too about the additional projects that are coming. Some will be quite large. This one, like you say, is pretty clear cut, but when we start getting a few others that are in the $1 million range, and there's several of those, I assume those plans will be a little more intricate, a little more complicated, probably something you'll want to share with the council, prior to a city council meeting, and I'm sure the surrounding neighborhoods, right?
Absolutely. And so you're right. Some of these have a dollar figure attached to them that I would put them in the transformative category as far as the existence of the park and what we're trying to establish for a long time to come. So yes, engagement, assessment, things that we're actually just either fully engaged with now as far as the process is concerned, or on the cusp of actually doing some bigger outreach to collect information specifically to what those improvements would entail. And yes, this one, again, just happened to be pretty direct, and that's why it moved a little faster than some others. But I can tell you, I will be very excited personally to share more of that detail with the council and the community, obviously, as we get to the point of actually implementing some of these things that, again, we think are going to make a tremendous impact.
Good. Yeah, one that comes to mind is Lynch Park. $1 million there has been needed for a long time and is a bit of a blank slate. So I think that'd be a good idea to have some heavy engagement around that. Can you speak a little bit more to the timeline? Are we talking, the next few months for the rest of these parks, or the next 6 months? What would you foresee?
Absolutely, yeah, all of the above. Everything on the list is in motion in some form or fashion. Some are, it may be 50%, some are maybe 10%, but active in some way. So yes, you could see things as soon as the next few weeks, next few months. Again, we're on the clock as far as completion of projects by the end of 25. And we know that sounds like a long time, but this is, again, these projects are getting layered in on top of everything else that Park and Rec already had planned. We know contractor speed and contractor demand is up, so we're trying to get to these or get these in the queue for work as fast as possible to not have any problem should we run into some timeline or supply issues. Because again, large scope of work, Lynch that you mentioned, has a lot of moving parts. It's our highest funded project of everything that has ARPA funding attached to it. But well worth it, and something we feel very comfortable about being able to accomplish. So we're working through some actually final justification criteria. We want to be very thoughtful anytime we're getting this kind of allocation of money and the parameters that are put on this from a federal standpoint. We just want to ensure that when we're moving forward, everything is taken care of as far as our confidence and ability to do all the things that we've said we want to do. And we're making sure all of that is set around some of the logistical structure issues that we're doing to set the project.
And my last question for you today is, I think it'll be an impactful project to have $10 million into our park system. But then when you put $10 million into your park system, you got to make sure you can take care of it, right? And we've had some conversations. I know we toured all the parks in my district recently,
yes,
together with you and Mr. Fry, and talked about not only improvements in those areas, but also maintenance in those areas. And recently the council did pursue a maintenance equipment type program with the fire department and some other departments that I think will be very helpful to them and that are justified and probably what every department should be doing when they look at the long term of their equipment replacement and how that affects their operations. That's also true in the Parks Department. I think I've heard it expressed that we could probably use about a $2 million per year replacement program in your department to make sure we have the mowers and the trimmers and all the equipment we need to be effective in maintaining our parks now, but then certainly in the future as they get improved. That's something you're working on as we speak, right?
Correct, and thank you for bringing that up. Josh Fry, who mentioned, our parks manager, is working diligently with Fleet, and we thank them for their support and their partnership on really digging deep about where we need to go, not just next year or the year after, but in that full picture of how we maintain a new system to ensure that we don't end up in a spot as challenging as we're dealing with right now. I certainly applaud the ingenuity and the resourcefulness of my team to keep operations going at the level we have. I certainly want to thank the council for their approval of the budget and what we're going to be able to do to increase part-time salaries next year, something we think will help, again, take a step forward as far as solving maybe our immediate problem, but solidifying things for the future. And then we're also doing some departmental restructuring, really just to ensure that we have the leadership in places we need to out in the field to monitor things ahead of them becoming a bigger challenge or a bigger issue for us. Again, saving resources, funding, and being part of that bigger plan to know that we've got things done, not just now, but in the future.
And that plan might be something for the council to consider in the next budget cycle, or what would you?
That's our hope. We're on track to meet with the finance department here in probably the next month or so. And I know we're hitting the crunch with the holidays, but share really an outline of what we'd like to see happen and have some of that dialogue about how others have been successful. You mentioned the fire department. I know police and public works have gone through a similar exercise in probably about the last 5 years, and really map out how that can exist based on what's available or what we need to do to bring new funding to that kind of resource.
Great. I'd be supportive of that too. I think that's pretty important in this mix.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Johnson, you're recognized.
Yeah, would you also be inclusive regarding the plans as you continue to roll out these ARPA funds as it relates to the future project, the other 9 projects? Because I haven't had very much information regarding what these plans are. Perhaps there is a Parks Committee that we have here at City Council, but those minutes I have not been privy to, and I'm not having a full understanding other than the summary that the general public has received regarding these ARPA funds. Again, the ARPA funds are designed to help underserved community, and my community, the community that I represent, certainly is one of those communities. And so it would be just helpful to me to know the particulars of what that looks like, the details, other than a summary. I need more information than what I've been provided with.
Happy to pass along detail as we get more to provide. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Is there a motion? Second. Roll call.
Melton. Yes. Palermo. Yes. Rowe. Yes. Bagley. Aye. Harding is absent. Johnson. Yes. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 32 is approved, 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Item 33, a resolution to approve an appropriation in the amount of $250,000 for the FEI World Cup Finals sponsorship agreement.
Public hearing and vote on number 33 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. Deborah Ward, the Executive Director of the Omaha Convention and Visitors Bureau, 306 South 10th Street. We're asking you today to approve a $250,000 marketing sponsorship with the Omaha Equestrian Foundation for international, national, and regional promotion advertising prior to the 2023 FEI World Cup Finals. Now, the FEI World Cup Finals is one of the most prestigious equestrian events, second only to the Olympics. The event will be held here in Omaha, April 4th through the 8th, 2023, at the CHI Center, Omaha. This event provides a global platform for the city of Omaha to showcase its growth, culture, and wealth of attractions. The enhanced marketing efforts will focus on increasing out-of-town visitation to Omaha for the 2023 FEI World Cup. Now, in 2017 was the first time we've ever hosted it. That event infused more than $19 million into our local economy, and in 2023 we expect that to be a lot higher. The allocation of these dollars will come from the OCVB budget, which is primarily funded through hotel tax paid by out-of-town visitors, and by state statute, the lodging tax money we receive must be spent on marketing. In 2017, the event was a huge success with more than 52,000 spectators from 38 different countries and all 50 states visiting Omaha. The media attention was worldwide. There was, and I know the specifics on this one, 1,104 stories written about the 2017 World Cup here in Omaha, and stories ran in the UK, Ireland, Sweden, Norway, Brazil, the UAE, Israel, and New Zealand, just to name a few. Publicity value alone was $18 million. So it's a really good event for the city on a lot of different levels. The CEO of the Omaha Equestrian Foundation, Julie Boylston, is here today. She can fill you in on next year's event too.
Great, thanks.
Thank you. I'm Julie Boylston, CEO of the Omaha Equestrian Foundation, 1004 South Farnham Street, Suite 100. There is some very interesting things about this event if you're not familiar with it. The 2017 bid for this event, Omaha managed to beat Hong Kong and London to host this event in 2017. In 2023, we beat Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, who wanted to host it in the Middle East for the very first time and was told to wait till 2024 because Omaha had held such a successful event in 2017. This is a $10 million budget to build an equestrian center in the CHI Center, which is no small feat. We do expect ticket sales to exceed the $2.1 million of ticket sales that we had in 2017. We're 5 months from the event. We just started single ticket sales on the 18th of October. We have over $1 million of ticket sales already. They're primarily all session tickets, our VIP tickets, and so there's about 6,000 of those tickets that are already sold. So you can tell by the correlation of the number and the number of tickets, the very best tickets have already been captured. Of those 52,000 tickets sold in 2017, 70% were more than 50 miles from the venue. So this is a great event for hotels. We really estimate that we would have sold out about 40,000 room nights in 2017. So to date, we've already booked through the OCVB 4,600 room nights, and anecdotally, we know that the Hilton downtown is sold out, the Capital District Marriott is sold out, the Courtyard downtown is sold out, the Fairfield downtown is sold out. Close to selling out is the Cambria, the Hilton Garden Inn, and the Hampton Inn. So we have great response. We are expecting a tremendous crowd. We did do some scheduling this year. We added a third sport. We hosted jumping and dressage in 2017. We added a great young sport, vaulting, that is really engaging, really fun to watch. We think the community is going to love it. Omaha has a lot of dance and cheer and gymnastics fans, and we think it's a really great fit for vaulting, that those young people are going to enjoy watching these athletes. In doing that scheduling change, we did manage to schedule that every single competition has at least one full day off while they're here in Omaha, so that they can enjoy our city and not just spend their entire time in CHI. So we really thought that was important from a scheduling standpoint, and to make the decisions that do what's right by our city and let people really see and appreciate Omaha. We did make a change from 2017 in that we also adopted a theme for the event. If we were going to bring, 50,000 people to Omaha, what were we going to tell them about Omaha? So we've really looked at the idea of kind of combining the years we've hosted this, of 2017 and 2023, to talk about the year 1723. So what was happening on this piece of land that the CHI sits on in 2023 that was relevant to horse fans? And it's really the idea that horses had made their way up through the plains, and how did their arrival back in the plains impact all of our local tribes and completely change the culture of the Lakota and the Winnebago. And, all of our local, we're working with the Bluebird Cultural Initiative and working on storytelling. We're really introducing that not just into our marketing campaign, because we felt like it was an interesting way to position the marketing, but also in our education efforts that we do on site. We host about 4,500 school field trips each year, and it gave us an opportunity to use horses as a common love between different communities to create a conversation and to really give our local Indigenous people an opportunity to tell their own story on a big global platform. So those are some of the things that we have done around making advances for the sporting program this year, and we hope you like him. We hope we like what we're doing for the city.
Thank you. Any other proponents today?
Donnie Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizens Foundation. And Mr. President, a little patient, and as we calculate this, when they close Benson Golf Course, which is a part of this, we were going to add another $3 million for North
So,
Omaha.
Donnie, that's not part of this. This is about an event coming to Omaha, right? The
Well, no,
FEI
when I
World
went to
Cup?
the Kiwanis Club, where they was invited me, Ms. Jerry Parks, they said this here, that $10 million that Don Bacon's going to give to Mrs. Johnson, we're going to use it when the boys, Benson closed their golf course because they closed Fountaindale. The Benson guys said they seen a Bigfoot at the course, they ain't going there no more. So the land is vacant.
It's not the same thing. This is an event to be at the CHI Health Center.
Oh, you mean they're not closing the Benson Golf Club on 72nd and Aim?
No.
Oh, this is the wrong place. It means the Bigfoot was not up there, and them guys are not going back. They're going to continue to play golf.
All right.
Ms. Johnson, we need the $3 million from Don Bacon.
Are there any other proponents today on number 33? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Julie, I'll just engage you for a minute, if you would. I know we met on this, probably about a year ago to talk about what we have here today in terms of some city support. I know the state is also supporting this event. This is one of those events that is probably better known outside of Omaha than inside Omaha in many cases, given its worldwide publicity and international flavor, but huge economic impact, as you were describing, that rivals things like the volleyball finals and the swim trials. So I think it's definitely appropriate that the city and the CVB consider this financial support to help make sure it comes here and does well here. And I appreciated hearing more about also the history you're going to be tying the event to. And I know you have a lot of partnerships with the school districts too, and getting kids involved. So I appreciate that aspect of it as well. So I'll look forward to supporting this here today. I see that Mr. Bagley has some questions.
Thanks, Mr. President. Julie, good afternoon. The meeting that Council President Festrin mentioned, it did seem like a long time ago, but talk about the partnerships you have beyond the city that are supporting this financially. And I know Deb had mentioned the great impact on our restaurants and hotels for the tourism that this brings, but talk a little bit about the partnerships of financial support of this beyond the city that we're doing here today.
Absolutely. We anticipate a $500,000 grant through economic development through ARPA funds from the state. We've received a $100,000 ARPA grant through the commissioners, as well as an $88,000 grant through the VIF from the county. That is the only public support. The rest of the $10 million is all privately raised, ticket sales, sponsorships, vendor sales. So it's essentially a private.
In the other cities that we're trying to get this event, the competition globally, not just in the Midwest. So I know a lot of work went into this, and again, in the discussions we had a year ago,
right.
That I'll look forward to supporting this today. When it talks about, it says for the multiple marketing touch points to promote the city of Omaha during the event included, it said signage in the athletes' warm-up area. Tell us who the athletes are.
Well, the athletes are all of the jumping and dressage athletes you just saw in the Summer Games. This is actually an event that is more exclusive than the Olympics, because you think about there's 212 jumpers in the Olympics. There will be 58 here, so only the top 58 in the world. There was 187 dressage riders at the Olympics. There will be 18 here. So you're really talking about the absolute cream of the crop. And in the warm-up arena, that is adjacent. We do a public warm-up arena. It's a very European thing to do at horse shows, that the crowd is as engaged in watching the warm-up as they are the competition. And that area is completely free to the public. You know, you actually don't have to buy a ticket to my event to enjoy your event. You know, it's one of the things that's nice. You can be part of check out the trade show area. There was 137 vendors last time from 8 different countries. So that's a great space to really kind of come in and enjoy. The education space is there. We're doing a lot of things to activate our theme in that area. There'll be a full Lakota lodge constructed in that area. We'll be talking to kids about how the Lakota symbology around horses, because the Lakota tribe painted horses. And we're talking to kids about, they're like emojis. You think emojis are a new thing, but they're not. So, really giving them a lesson in how symbols have been used for a long time to communicate and express things. All of those things wrap around the warm-up area. So giving you signage in the warm-up area really amplifies your message to, frankly, the entire audience that's going to come and go to the ticketed event, as well as all the people that are going to enjoy the free part of the event in the trade show.
I appreciate you saying that it's free. If people wanted to go to that area, you don't have to buy a ticket to get in to the main event. But people, kids, families can go in there and see this right in front of them.
Yeah, you do
free
not.
of charge, just to get an experience that is really neat with these horses and people coming from around the world. They don't just train them in. I mean, I know the logistics of getting these animals here, it's quite remarkable. So I appreciate you being here today, and I'm looking forward to offering my support for this today as well. Thank you.
Yes, that's the other big benefiter from this event is the Omaha Airport Authority, right? Not
Yes.
just people, but horses.
Yes, 51 to 54 horses will come in on the flight from Europe, and 18 to 24 horses will come in on the U.S. flight from Florida.
Interesting. Ms. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Big question.
Sure.
About how many people do you think will actually come to Omaha for this event?
So of the 52,000 ticket buyers in 2017, 70% were from more than 50 miles away.
Okay.
So the bulk.
Huh?
The bulk of people will be from outside the Omaha area.
Wow, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly an opportunity for people to see from outside of our community some of the things we've done in terms of development.
Mm-hmm. We're very much looking forward to showing them the park. We're very much looking forward to showing them the zoo. Actually last weekend we were promoting the event on the side of the Burlington building with the new park projection system, which we're very grateful for.
Wow, this sounds very interesting. So how will you get this out to the community in terms of us coming to this? Sounds like an enjoyable event.
It is. We just really started local promotion, budgets are budgets, and so we just started ticket sales, single ticket sales on the 18th. And that was when we really started in Omaha. If you look right now, you'll see park benches, you'll see digital advertising, TV advertising, out of home. There'll be a takeover. Well, there is a takeover in the airport, the baggage area right now that will go on through Thanksgiving. So we thought it was a great time to kind of capture audiences as they're traveling home for the holidays, that we might get them to come home again. And so, yeah, it's a very, very broad. My background is actually in brand and marketing. So that's my sweet spot. And then we're doing the same thing as there's large equine events in other cities. Actually in Toronto right now, the Royal is celebrating their 150th anniversary of the Royal in Toronto, and we have out of home and digital on the venue drive going into the Royal. So,
thank you.
Now for the lights, is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Bagley. Harding is absent. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Item 33 is approved, 6-0.
Thank you.
Item 34, an ordinance to approve the Exarban Keys Apartments Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
Public hearing on number 34 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, City Planning. I'm here for any questions you may have on this agreement, and we also have a project representative available for questions as well.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Donnie Johnson, Johnson Question Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation. My question, sir, if they're closing Benson Golf Course, we want to claim some of that land so we can put our apartments
Donnie,
over there.
This is not Benson
get some of
Golf
that tourist
Course,
money.
And Benson Golf Course is not closing. This is the Exarban Keys Apartments.
We're going to block. The Exarban Lights told me to block everything until they start putting something in North Omaha.
Okay. Any other proponents on number 34? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue. Excuse me. Omaha 68132. Sound system is fixed today. On number 34, but other similar type projects. I did a little homework. You don't apply things equally across the board on these TIF projects, and I'm going to say why. Exhibit D to this particular item talks about the Equal Employment Opportunity Clause. Some of the others do not talk about that. Some of the specific words that are in this one versus not the other ones are references to without regard to race, religion, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, or national origins, age, or disability. Those words are not universally applied. And it's, from my knowledge, it's not in the Constitution. I haven't been employed for a while, so I don't know what the employers generally are able to do or not do. But the discrimination in any form is basically illegal under the Constitution. You really don't need those laws. So you need to change your wording on this Exhibit D and maybe the Exhibit D on some of these other TIF applications because they don't use those words. So in effect, you're discriminating against some owners or developers or whoever it is that's applying for the TIF application. That's illegal, ladies and gentlemen. Now, thank you for not interrupting me. We have a representative of the Reader magazine that mentions the Omaha City Council. So I'm going to mention it too, because it plays into what I just said.
It needs to. If you get off topic, I will interrupt you.
I'll give you the copy.
I will address the issue you just raised too when you're done.
Okay, I'll give you the copy. I'm not a professional writer. I am not a community organizer. And I am not one of these documenters that the Omaha Reader makes reference to in this new issue. But it does make reference to, and I quote, our own plans being opposed to being a city that gets steamrolled by developers with politicians in their pockets. The lady that's leading this organization in Omaha. But it's a national organization. Independent newspaper columnists or whatever you want to call them. They're calling you guys maybe corrupt also, not just me. And I think maybe little Luis Jimenez that follows me around is one of these community developer writers, columnists, reporter, whatever you want to call them. Did you ever notice he always runs down and sit right next to me?
We're not talking about him. We're talking about the exorbitant.
But anyway,
all right?
Just to say that it's not just me that brings that up. Ask the reader where they get their information.
Okay. Any other opponents on number 34 today? Seeing none, I want to close public hearing. Mr. Indenbosch, just one quick interaction with you because I know you wrote the ordinance. Our non-discrimination clause, which is in that document, is within city code, does provide non-discrimination protection to all those classes on every city council document. Is that correct?
Bernard Indenbosch, Deputy City Attorney. I didn't actually write 10-192, but I did do the amendment that added sexual identity and gender orientation as additional protected categories. But yes, the city code, 10-192, the Equal Employment Opportunity Clause is required to be in city contracts. That's an ordinance that was adopted by the city council I think 40 years ago. The categories that are included have changed.
Yes, most recently amended, I think, 10 or 12 years ago. Correct. To read just as you suggested. Yep. So just wanted to clarify that. No further lights. Next item.
Item 35, an ordinance to approve the Skylark Development Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Agreement.
Public hearing on number 35 is today. Proponents, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Don Seaton, City Planning. Here for any questions you may have on the agreement, and we have a project representative available for questions as well.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Store, 5115 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. On this particular item, I've driven by there recently. I fail to see how one block south of Dodge Street on 38th Avenue is anywhere near blighted or severely blighted. That seems to be one of their criteria for TIF. I can't believe that one side of the street is blighted or severely blighted, but the other side of the street is not. Or that 100 South 38th or 119 South 38th are not blighted and aren't getting TIF. That's a pretty large property there, from 101 to 1 through 117, and $3,800,000. Wow. I'd like to be a developer. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents today? See none, public hearing's closed. Next item.
Item 36, an ordinance to approve the industrial on Fort tax increment financing redevelopment agreement.
The public hearing on number 36 is today. Proponents, please.
Hi, Don Seaton, City Planning Department. Again, I'm here for any questions you may have, and we also have a project representative available.
Thank you. Any other proponents? It's got to be TIF.
Yes, sir.
Right? TIF at 12th and 4th Street, right,
TIF.
Donnie?
Maybe, do I do the name first, or
Yes.
start talking which one?
Name and address if you intend to address this item on the agenda. Yes.
And then I talked to Mrs. Melton about asking us to vote as well? Because I did vote. I got a lot of black
That's
votes.
not what this is.
Oh. Anyway, TIF and this program I like, but at the same time, we don't have nothing in North Omaha. And they say Bigfoot is running around in Benson Park. That's why they're going to close it, because those guys scared to go up there and play golf. So we want to develop a hotel over there.
All right. Any other proponents to number 36? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette, Omaha 68132. I haven't driven that area, but perhaps somebody can clear up something for me. This sounds to me like somebody's getting some benefit here to be able to resell some leasable bays. Makes me think, well, gee, I'm getting kind of old. I can't afford my property taxes. Maybe I can get TIF to have a new building for a business put up somewhere. I just have to convince somebody that particular property is brain problem, is run down and terribly unused and would not happen without TIF. Well, yeah, I wouldn't do it if I couldn't get TIF. So maybe you could take some time to explain why my statements are unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other opponents to number 36? Seeing none, public hearing is closed.
Item 37, an ordinance to approve the Kennedy Square East tax increment financing redevelopment agreement.
Public hearing on number 37 is today. Proponents, please.
Don Seaton, City Planning, here for any questions you may have. And again, we have a project representative also available.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Yes, sir. Is this part of the President Kennedy family, or is that George Kennedy?
Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Other proponents, please. Ms. Franklin.
Good afternoon. City Franklin 75 North here to answer any questions. Thank you for your consideration.
Hi again, Bill Lukash, Bryn Shore Development, 903 South 184th Avenue Circle, Omaha. Here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. Once again, I think some discussion is in order, because affordable housing, well, for who? There's lots of little houses around Omaha, particularly on Hamilton Street between Cumming and 30th, that would be very nice affordable houses if they could get money to fix them up. But they don't get the money because they're not a developer. So I'm kind of thinking, there's something wrong with this too. So I think the taxpayers would like some better justification for all of these projects. We would appreciate an explanation of $1,960,000 when I drive down Hamilton Street and nobody's done anything with that. A lot of those people would like to have money to fix their house up. Blighted areas are very close to my property down just a ways west of 50th Street. I don't know, maybe they're after my house for an apartment building, and I'd like to stop it before that happens. Thank you.
Any other opponents to number 37? Seeing none, public hearing's closed. Ms. Johnson, is your light on?
Thank you, Mr. President. Sydney, if you wouldn't mind coming up. How are you today?
Yes, I'm well. Councilwoman Johnson, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Can you give us a rundown for the audience as to what we're going to do here on this project?
Yeah, so this is actually a housing authority, Omaha Housing Authority site. Their general counsel is here should there be any specific questions. 75 North is a partner in this project. If anyone's driven down North 30th Street recently, you'll see that the former Spencer Homes public housing site, which has set on the corners of 30th and Spencer Street since I want to say the 40s or 50s, has been completely raised. It's kind of an incredible site. You can just about see the 75 North Highway looking eastward from 30th Street. And so in its place will be 102 units of mixed income housing. A third of those units will be replacement housing for former Spencer residents, and the rest will have a mixed income spread of affordable and market rate housing. A variety of townhomes, duplexes, and then a larger multifamily structure with some commercial space on the ground floor.
And when can we expect to see?
So we will likely break ground within the next, 80 or 90 days.
Okay.
Maybe early 2023.
And when can we expect to see it?
Probably a 15 to 16 month construction timeline there.
So 2023 will be looking at a different space over there, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. And so this mimics to a degree what we're doing in Highlander, one of the phases that we currently have under construction, which is 108 units of mixed income housing. A third of those are replacement housing for former Spencer residents. It has a kind of similar feel, or it will. So we've got rows of townhomes and duplexes, and then a large multifamily structure with some commercial space. Some of the architects on that project are focused on Kennedy Square East, and it'll have a very similar feel.
Great. And do you have any amenities that you can?
Of course, yeah. So there'll be kind of a multi-purpose sports complex associated. We'll have a community partner that's activating the commercial space, kind of an anchor tenant for some future smaller small business space that'll be associated with the second phase of the Spencer Homes reconstruction on the west side of 30th Street. There will be infrastructure, street improvements added with the project. It's going to be a completely new neighborhood there that accommodates folks from a variety of incomes. It'll be pretty spectacular.
Sounds very exciting and looking forward.
It's an understatement. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree, and I did drive the property recently. Actually, on the way to a program that Councilmember Johnson and I went to and spoke to about 300 youth at North High School.
Okay.
And this was one of the projects we highlighted in front of that group, and I know will be very exciting for the neighborhood. So I look forward to supporting this next week.
Thank you. Thank you. It is. It's overwhelming right now to see the neighborhood continue to strengthen, and all the folks that we've aligned with, including the City of Omaha. Your advocacy and support means everything. So thank you. And thank you for your consideration today.
Thank you. No further lights. Next item.
Item 38, an ordinance to accept and authorize disbursement from the fiscal year 2021 Choice Implementation Grant in the amount of $50 million.
Public hearing on number 38 is today. Proponents, please.
Good afternoon. Kelly Johnston Dorsey with the Omaha Planning Department. So promises have been made to the residents of Southside Terrace and their surrounding neighborhood for decades. And we really got traction about 3 years ago with the award of a $1.3 million grant to the City of Omaha, Omaha Housing Authority, and Canopy South to create a transformation plan for the area. We spent 2020 and 2021 working with the community and completing technical analysis to create the Southside Terrace Indian Hill Transformation Plan. The timeline from there comes somewhat of a blur. The notice of funding opportunity for this grant was made on November 17th. 5 days later, we submitted our draft transformation plan. December 15th, HUD accepted that draft, and about a month later, we submitted our application for the $50 million. Just 2 days later, we submitted our final transformation plan. Let's just say from November to February, it was a very busy time frame for us in turning this around. There were 20 applications submitted, and we were one of 5 that were shortlisted. We did a site visit interview in June, and then on September 19th, we were one of 4 cities that was officially awarded a Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant for FY21. We are here today to approve the acceptance of that grant. The grant is the $50 million grant to implement the Southside Terrace Indian Hill Transformation Plan. In lieu of inviting of let me back up. There are 3 core goals with the transformation plan and with the Choice Neighborhoods program. The first relates to housing. It's to replace Southside Terrace with high-quality mixed-income housing that is well-managed and responsive to the needs of the surrounding neighborhood. People. To improve outcomes of households living at Southside Terrace related to employment and income, health, and children's education. And neighborhood. To create the conditions necessary for public and private reinvestment in the neighborhood to offer the kinds of amenities and assets, including safety, good schools, and commercial activity that are important to families' choice about their community. So in lieu of inviting over 300 stakeholders and all of our Southside Terrace residents down here to celebrate accepting this grant with us, I would like to play this short video from our grant award event held at Southside Terrace.
Remember, this is a celebration. This is a wonderful day and a lot of excitement for us.
Omaha has the will and adapt to the needs of our community.
Well, everybody involved, we have pulled it off. And now the real work begins.
Broad collaboration, the community participation in this project, which we see will lead to great success in our community.
We're grateful for the trust that you put on us, a trust that is worth more than $50 million.
I want to thank also a group I met, Simple Foundation. Thank you for being an anchor institution here and doing the heavy lift with the families.
To us, it doesn't start with real estate. It starts with the residents. We realize what we're doing. We realize this is public housing. We realize that the people that live here are looking for something to transform.
I would like to point out a few of the key items in our grant agreement. Our performance period is from September 16, 2022 through September 30th to 2028. Grantees, that is us, we were required to involve the affected public housing residents in the implementation of the transformation plan. Public housing units must be replaced 1 for 1, that is 358 units, and they all must be developed in mixed income projects. Supportive services must be provided for residents, and each household who wishes to return to the on-site or off-site replacement housing may return if the tenant was and remains lease compliant. A returning tenant shall be provided a preference for occupancy of the replacement units before such units are made available to any other households. We are able to do all of this work because of our amazing partners and stakeholders. 30 partners and stakeholders within the community committed over $199 million to leverage this $50 million grant. This is our partnership structure for the grant. The city is the lead grantee. The Omaha Housing Authority is our co-grantee. Our housing implementation lead is Brinshore Development. The neighborhood implementation lead is the City of Omaha Planning Department. The people implementation lead is the Omaha Housing Authority. Our principal education partner is Canopy South, and our anchor institution is the Simple Foundation. And our partners are also here and would like to say a few words.
Thank you. Other proponents, please.
Good afternoon. Cesar Garcia, 2411 O Street, Omaha, Nebraska. I just want to say how excited I am on behalf of the community in South Omaha. It's been a lot of work in the last 3 years. We went through a pandemic where we're trying to involve all the people, and get their voices and understand what they needed. And here we are after $50 million, and it seems like a lot of money, but it's just a little drop to get us going. There's a lot more to bring, and I'm very happy with the $199 million that we're receiving from community, including philanthropy, which was able to match with $25 million this effort. The most important thing I want to say today is that this is all about collaboration. Canopy South bringing to the table, when we came to the table, we're the new member. As we know, 75 North has gone through this similar process a few years back when they received $25 million from the same grant. And we can see where that's going, and we can see how beautiful the area looks and the beautiful future that they have ahead of them. So I'm excited for South Omaha, along with the ARPA funding that we're bringing to this community. It is a one-in-a-lifetime opportunity for doing something amazing. So I appreciate everybody's efforts and the support from the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Brian Hansen, 1823 Harney Street. I'm the general counsel for the Omaha Housing Authority. I'm just here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Hi, Todd Lieberman, 222 West Gregory, Kansas City, Missouri. With Brinshore Development, I just want to say thank you and to the City of Omaha and congratulations. We are so excited to be working with our partners on a second CNI effort in Omaha. HUD has taken notice, and the residents, I think, will bear the fruits of what will be one of the most transformational projects that our company's ever worked on. So thank you for your support and your partnership.
Thank you. Any other proponents today? Seeing none, any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I like new things and new development and success for everybody. But my God, $249 million. And the implication is that it's not costing me a thing, not a penny out of my taxes. But what's not said is the development that will come maybe with this drives the property tax up, drives the resale value up, and you tax me based on the dollar sale price of somebody else's residence. That needs to change because you're driving older people out of Omaha. They can't afford the continuing rise of property taxes based on somebody else's coming into Omaha from California and overpaying for a house. Well, you might not be able to attract as many young people to Omaha with all this as you think, because people are up to their limit. And this does not explain who the grantors are. It talks about the grantees. But there's a foundation involved. I'm sure there's more than one. But is the government funding all of it? Or is it two separate grants? One for $50 million and one for $199. But how much of that $50 million at least is going to be out of the city's pockets for operational expenses? Where's that money going to come from? Probably out of my pocket. Thank you.
Any other opponents to number 38? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Mr. Palermo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will say there's certainly something we can afford,
and that's for the residents of District 4 that have lived in Southside Terrace and even generations before them to afford to have them living like that. That we know. Kelly, your presentation was great. Thank you for not including me in that video, as somebody handed me the check, as we have talked about this for decades. And I was reminded by more than one person that, yeah, Vinny, well, finally, we have this money, we're going to move forward. And one of them was the mayor, who took a picture with me with that check, and she reminded me as well. But that's okay, because it's good to be wrong sometimes. And it's good to be wrong on projects like this when there's so much positivity moving forward with it. If you don't know the area, there's been a lot of action and movement along, starting with the bridge that was replaced. Obviously, we have a great South Omaha Library at the eastern end of this corridor, Q Street. And as we all vividly remember, now we have a brand new state-of-the-art fire station there along the west quadrant of this area. And there's parcels along there that were, like many in the community, that we couldn't find people to mow them. Well, them days are over, and now them parcels along there will be developed with businesses and restaurants and jobs that are being created. But the one gigantic part that was missing was the changing of Southside Terrace, and we're finally there. A few of my colleagues were there with me. That was a great day. I feel like we're going back over the congratulations and the excitement. And I said to a few people in the crowd, as we listened to speakers and presenters of how amazing this was going to be, there was one group we forgot to mention, or maybe they were mentioned, but just not enough, and that was the planning department, because we have a lot of work ahead of us, not just with the partners we have, but here at the city, because there will be a lot of changes that happen with the housing and with the zoning, and I'm sure, I believe that our city, working with 75 North and others working these projects, we know how to implement and navigate this even a little quicker, I would say. So we're happy to be here. I know, Cesar, I hate to really call you out, but I remember about the first 5 times we met, I was like, hey, I'm great, glad you're here, we're moving forward. And then maybe the next 5 after that, I'm like, hey, man, you got to show me something. Like where are we at on this project? And so, again, many thanks to the planning department for all this work, and thanking you moving forward for all the work that's going to be coming your way. But again, thank you for this project finally moving forward. It is a game changer when we talk about the quality of life for people in District 4, the people in the city of Omaha in general. Nobody should be living in those conditions anymore. The infrastructure needed to be replaced probably 50 years ago, and it's time to stop tearing down walls for different living for people. It's time to relocate, build some more, bring people back in, and make this neighborhood and community what it always should be, and that's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bagley.
Thanks, Mr. President. In knowing that area, what's gone on over the years, and as it says in the agenda item, it's a transformational plan. And when you're talking about $250 million to lift that community up from the work that's been done in the past, from the Kroc Center to Metro Community College, and now this, it'll lift folks up down in that district where Councilman Palermo has talked from day one since I got on the council, that I know you've worked for years on this, advocating, and in the great partnership with everybody involved here. I appreciate the work you've put into this, and I'll absolutely look forward to supporting this, as it's a needed shot in the arm for a long neglected area that a lot of people over the years have tried to address. So it's just transformational, as it said here, and South Omaha will be great because of this. And as Vinny said, the fire department also, and I think they did some bridge worked there a few years ago on Q Street in my OPPD job. I think every contractor hit every cable in the ground down there that I would spend a lot of time down there, but it is going to be neat to see in the next 6 or 8 years how this is transformed and it helps the lives of many people and generations that have been stuck down there in this challenging living conditions that are the south side area there. It's going to be great to see the work that's put into this. So thanks in advance for everybody that's listed on our screen there that has put a lot of work into this, and I'll look forward to supporting it and watching the progress in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And I agree in that video was nice to see again today. That was a really exciting event that day, exciting for all of us and all the partners that are listed here. But one of the things that I thought was most special about it was the excitement amongst the residents, and that was palpable. And you could see some of that footage just now in the in the video, and that's why we're doing this. I don't often speak for the council, but I'm pretty confident this will be a unanimous vote next week. This is a transformational project that I know everyone supports. Cesar, if you had just a moment to come up for one more second. This does talk about, of course, the $50 million grant award, which is major, but then the other $199 million dedicated match. Can you speak to what that involves and what the status of that match may be?
So what it requires, part of the application, that we'll talk to the communities, organizations that are working around in the surrounding and serving this community, and find out what their commitment in the next 5 years, as we are committed with the timeline, right? And what projects they have in the pipeline, and what about what other things are they willing to invest. So we're aligning all those investments, and that's from organizations like One War, Community Health Center, the Simple Foundation, Girls Inc., Latino Center of the Millennials, organizations that are committing some dollars in terms of even programs or infrastructure. And when we added all those numbers, it came to about $199 million. So, and that is exclusively to serve this community. So that was very clear on that application that it was for this community. It wasn't just out of their budget that we need to put, is allocated for everything that they're going to be doing. So as we can see, it's very exciting. That counts with more than 30 partners in the partnership, looking into what is a real transformation and revitalization of this neighborhood. Everybody's committed, and they're putting the money in the table for that.
Great, so, thank you. And I'm confident in the philanthropic interest in this project too, as you were speaking to.
Correct, and the philanthropy will be $25 million at this point. We're still talking to some of those partners that are willing to commit to more than that, or new partners. But as it is right now, there are $25 million that have been committed to this project from philanthropy.
And I saw you're already getting started across the street, right, in the building that we toured near the park?
Correct. That's an Upland Park. That's that most likely will be the new home for Canopy South. Will be hosting us. It will be our place to be in the middle of the community, to have people have access to us. They don't have to go all the way to 24th Street. We love the building where we are, but we need to be in the community. So that will be coming out really soon, and hopefully by June we'll also have a great celebration there. We'll invite the whole council to come and celebrate with us, because it's no for Canopy South, it's for the community. That's what we're going to be doing with this building.
Excellent. We look forward to being there.
Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights. Next item.
Item 39, an ordinance to accept and authorize disbursement over more than one fiscal year from the fiscal year 2022 Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act grant program in the amount of $168,135.12.
Public hearing on number 39 is today. Proponents, please.
Thank you. Phil Rue, Omaha Police Department, 505 South 15th Street, here to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Other proponents?
You want name and address first, partner?
Sure.
Okay. Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation, 4928 North 52nd Street, Omaha, Nebraska. Now, I realize most of you folks were not on the city council when Mr. Boko and Frank Brown was here and screwed up the deal, and Albertson pulled all their business out overnight. And I read this book about...
You got to speak to the grant here,
That's
Donnie,
what I'm talking about, how Albertson pulled out their business overnight because of Frank Brown and his dumb mistakes as a city councilman, and Jim Boko with his dumb self. But in the meantime, My Harvard business classmate told me to read this book about Thomas Edison.
Downey, you're not talking to the grant. You
Well,
gotta be
yeah,
number, you gotta be
Thomas
number
Edison
39, right?
and Alexander Graham Bell refused any money from the federal government. They said they do not want the federal government sticking their nose in their business. And I finally figured out why. They did refuse all that money. The other part about in the great era of the great Palermo and the great Gatsby, be very careful about this mental illness. People used to use it all the time to break the law. They said, well, goes around, comes around. So it's probably coming back, fixing mental illness to get out of going to jail.
Any other proponents to number 39?
I'm glad Frank Brown is gone. Worst city council we ever had.
Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 40, an ordinance to amend the award special conditions 3 and 4 to the fiscal year 2021 Stop Violence Against Women grants approved by ordinance 43102.
Public hearing on number 40 is today. Proponents, please. Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Item 41, an ordinance to amend sections 18-12 and 37-54 and to add new sections 18-31 and 37-56 of the Omaha Municipal Code to amend the nuisance trees and vegetation codes.
Public hearing on number 41 is today. Proponents, please.
Josh Fry, Parks Manager, representing Parks Code Enforcement and Forestry, here to answer any questions should you have any.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, any opponents? Public hearing's closed.
Non-action items. Items 42 through 62 do not require a public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on an agenda for consideration.
Second, roll call.
Melton. Palermo. Rowe. Begley. Harding. Johnson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion is approved 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 3:41.